I know we ain't that church, but he that have an ear, let him hear what the Spirit of the Lord is saying. That's just to me. And, just full transparency has been a difficult week for me. And,
I feel it too. I feel it too.
and so, but when you're able to get around life sustaining people and
Absolutely.
words, like words have power. And again, if we're not in, sometimes we, especially women, we overemphasize multitasking as being admirable. But
Yeah.
what it hinders us from doing is staying in the moment. But when we're present, and when we're really tapped in, you can get so much from just one conversation. And while there's a lot of technical things that Mr. Rob is delivering tonight, there is a lot of spiritual and natural things that are coming through like a bulldozer. And I don't know if just because of where I've been this past week and or just this is what you do, and I've been privy to it. But I thank God that even though I've been in rooms with you and I've been able to glean from you all personally, I'm glad I never get so familiar with it that I can't really hear it. And you are causing me to live tonight on so many fronts. And so before I start crying, I just want to say thank you for that. And I'm going to go on to the next question because I feel it coming. What is your approach to staying profitable during hard times?
So I think the biggest thing is, LaShawn and I, right? First of all, is multiple revenue rivers, right? That's the first thing. So we have our hand in multiple things. But I think, this to me is when base camp is important, right? This is when base camp's important, right? And base camp is not a stop, but it's an opportunity to adjust. So when things shift, so our business shifted a lot when LaShawn got diagnosed with breast cancer, right? Our business, we took a major hit. But one of the things I know is that I have a promise from God, right? I go back to that promise. And so it is when things get difficult, when things shift, to me, that is the time when it's time to strategize. It's time to put yourself in a place to be able to hear from God, right? If you're a believer, I'm assuming everybody's believers, put yourself in a place to hear from God and be able to strategize. It is not a time to tuck your tail. It is not a time, oh, well, it's tough. And God said, I've never seen the righteous forsaken or a seed begging bread. If you're his righteous, then he's never seen you forsaken. God is not running out of ideas, right? So put yourself in a place. I put myself in a place. We put ourselves in a place where we can hear from God and we begin to strategize, right? And you move on to whatever that next thing is. But for us, it's multiple revenue rivers, right? So because we have our hands in multiple things, it's just, okay, well, we'll focus on this. We see this adjusting and maybe it's time to step out or try a different strategy and we'll go to this, right? But we've had sort of a complete shift in our business and it was a result of life, right? Life was lifing. But one of the things I do know is that there's greater on the other side of whatever that challenge is, right? That thing that causes you the stress, there's greater on the other side of that. So that's where I go into strategy mode. It's time to get the Sherpers and the guys together. It's time to talk. Let's strategize. Let's figure out what the next move is. And let's put ourselves in a place to be able to hear from God so that when God speaks that thing, we're able to execute. That's the resiliency of an entrepreneur, right? If you've been doing this for any amount of time, markets have shifted and you've had to change your strategy, right? If you ain't had to change your strategy, I'm going to go out on a limb and say you really aren't an entrepreneur yet, right? Excuse me, unless you've had something happen to interrupt your business, you aren't really an entrepreneur yet, right? If you haven't dealt with like 2008, when the market shifted, if you haven't gone through things like that before, you ain't really checked the entrepreneur box yet. So if you haven't, get ready. But I'm telling you how to get ready for it, which is be ready to strategize, be ready to be in a place to hear from God, and have people around you, right? Have the Sherpers, have the guides around you who can help you strategize to make that next move. Spend more time thinking, less time talking, less time reading, spend more time thinking.
You can't. I don't care what they try to do because that these people are going to. One of the things that we want transformative results, right? And we want people to be able to go from where they are today to a different place tomorrow.
Yep.
And there's no way you can sit up under this teaching and not be able to receive that. And we know that there are forces that are always at work trying to hinder that change, wants us to stay stuck.
Yep.
And so, but we'll always fight back and we'll always win because this ain't a defensive fight. This is an offensive fight.
Amen.
And with that, right, what are maybe two pieces of advice that you can give to someone that's currently stuck in the valley, right? So, as you mentioned, I wanted to say this though before you answer this. Here, if you look at the rudiments of this community, one of the things is that we allow you to have complimentary strategy calls,
Okay.
right? Because, right, like things are ever changing and no one needs to go it alone. And so if you're not taking advantage of those, you have three coaches here. You have myself, you have Kirsten. I'm taking that. I'm taking that to the bank. Like, that's really good. So with the question, if somebody is stuck in a valley right now.
Yeah.
And I know you said so much, but again, maybe they didn't hear it. If they stuck in a valley of just business or, trying to get their real estate investment efforts off the ground or trying to figure out, how to bring in those multiple streams of income, or maybe they're dealing with family and friends who every time they take a step forward somebody is kind of bringing them backwards. Maybe they're on a job and they're like, I wish I could just get off this job, then I could do whatever. Maybe it's children, whatever it is. Somebody's stuck in a valley. What would be two pieces of advice you would give them?
Wow. So many things to say here. Okay, I'm going to keep it to two. The first one,
Mr. Rob, whatever you feel like.
Okay. The first one I would say is trying to figure out which one I want to put one and two. I don't think one is more important than the other. I don't think. One would lead to the other. So let's say this. The first one would be perspective. So change your perspective, right? And the example I will give. So the question was, what would I say to somebody who's in a valley, right? So if you're in a valley, you see yourself in a low point, right? That's what you've said. If you say, hey, I'm in a valley, that means I see myself at a lower altitude than I should be at. So I would say the first thing you need to do is change your perspective. Right? It's time to put a reframe on that. The story I'll share is the children of Israel when they sent out the spies. And I talked about that at the real estate conference. 12 spies went out. 10 said, we went and saw them giants over there and we're like grasshoppers in our own eyes. So essentially what they said was they're giants and we see ourselves as grasshoppers. So their perspective was one of, we have no chance of inhabiting the promise that God gave us because of how we see ourselves. So the first thing I would tell you is change the way you see yourself, right? If it's fear, now I might dig myself into a hole here, so I want to be careful, right? But if there's some sort of emotion that is causing you not to move or to stay in that valley, then that needs to change. You need to get to the root of whatever that issue is. And that's more than we can deal with in the time that we have here today, right? But you need to change the perspective on how you see yourself. It could be a decision. that needs to be made, right? Because 2 spies went out and said, oh yeah, we see the land. It looks great. We are well able. So how you going to have 12 go out, 2 come back with a great report, the other 10 come back with a bad report? They all saw the same thing. They just perceived it differently. 2 perceived it different from the other 10. So I would tell you, change your perspective. I will say this to you, even though you may see yourself as being in a valley, you are well able to inhabit the land that God has promised you. So you need to change that perspective. You may even need to make that declaration out of your mouth. I saw the land and I am well able to go and inhabit that land. Don't see yourself, I am no longer a grasshopper. I'm a giant too. And then what did David do? David took the giant out with a stone and a slingshot. So you are well able to possess the land. You just need to change how you see yourself, the perspective that you see yourself. You're not a giant, you're a grasshopper. The second thing I will say is, and it's going to tie to what we talked about tonight, right? And it's going to tie into what Terri said, but this is what I feel. You have to get you a coach. You have to get you a Sherpa. You have to get somebody who can help you see differently than how you see now. You have to get somebody who can teach you how to change your perspective of a grasshopper into a giant. So perspective, number 1. Number 2, attach yourself to a Sherpa. Like Terri said, they got the free call, the complimentary. She used the professional word for it. I'm just going to get straight ghetto with y'all. The free call. Use the free call to get the help you need. Use the free call because you never know who God has aligned to be in your life that is just waiting for you to show up. Not only for you to bless them, but for them to be able to bless you. So change your perspective. You're a giant, not a grasshopper. And take advantage of that free call, right? Get that complimentary call so that you can get a Sherpa or a guide in your life to help you start working out of that valley to get to the land that God has promised you to be in.
Yo, we could have talked for days, but because we want you to join us next Tuesday for another episode of Terri Talks, that's it for today. Talk soon.